I'm Brent Ruff.
I'm Josh Teifke.
This is the Hunt Trap Fish podcast. Today, we sat down with return guest David Sirk and Ben Mcdonald, who is the owner of On Point Guide Service. Ben is a steelhead guide. Fly fishing is pretty much the name of the game.
We got into all things steelhead fishing and into the Pucker Street dam removal, what that means for the health of the Dowagiac River in the future.
A little bit about the St. Joe and the 2017 flood. Also played Stump Teifke again. I can't remember if you got stumped or not. But
I mean, it was BS.
We had fun. So without further ado, please give it up for our friend, Ben Mcdonald. I screwed up. I should have plugged him in different.
I would say, did you turn mine down or did you turn mine up? Did you fuck mine up?
No, yours is actually good, which is convenient because you wanted to bring something up before we got going.
The wild turkey one?
Go ahead.
The
The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, so I'm not saying Chuck Gooding is wrong, but I want to open this up to comment from our listeners because I looked in the Michigan Spring Wild Turkey Digest, and according to them, you can age a turkey based off the spurs. But from some other people's personal experiences, apparently that's not accurate. I'd just like to know everybody's opinion.
Do either one of you two fishermen have anything to chime in on that?
I mean, what are they suggesting on the length or the...
Yeah. I just killed the damn thing.
Right.
I don't really give a shit how old it is,
Right.
to be honest with you.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of a guideline, but even the digest got kind of specific. I thought a little bit too specific.
Yeah, they had like the length and curvature and all kinds of stuff to like your jakes are like no spur or half-inch minimum or maximum. Then it goes to a 1-year-old bird or a 1.5-year-old bird. It went all the way up to like 1.5-inch spurs and talking about the rounded tips, pointed, whether it had a curve to it. It's a decent chart, but
I mean, it's cool, right, to think about that you could actually age a bird, but are you going to age a bird while he's walking in?
No.
Yeah.
Does it hold any ground in the end?
No.
I think they put it in there for like the younger hunters to like, oh man, I got a 3-year-old bird, after they shoot one.
Mm-hmm.
But now, wouldn't it also be like genetics, kind of like deer? I mean, you can kind of age a deer off of his antlers, but some of them just have genetics, and by year 2, they're going to be a big buck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of, sort of, like you said, you can.
And then, because I've seen spikes, I got one that it was an 8-inch spike, both sides. That thing had to have been about a 2-3-year-old. It wasn't getting any bigger. I'd seen them year after year, and so.
All right. Well, we're not here for turkeys.
Kind of. I scouted turkeys today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, nice.
Spring turkey. Never mind. We're going back to turkeys. How's it looking?
It's good. I've not hunted last year was my first year back after 5-year hiatus due to just my guide season. So it was kind of like jumping back in,
Yeah.
So I did a lot of scouting. I drove around all that Crane Pond State Game area, and I found a lot of birds.
Okay.
Man. A lot of birds. So cat's out of the bag. There's a bunch of birds running around over there.
Man, Crane Pond, that's over there a ways.
It is over there a ways. I have 350 acres of my own, but it just doesn't hold birds. It just doesn't.
Say, my brother lives out that way, and he's an hour from here, and I mean, Crane Pond's like a half hour from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a hike, dude.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ground out there. I mean, I grew up hunting that. That's where I first cut my teeth, and I've killed a lot of birds off of that state ground. A lot.
Okay.
Most of them are private land birds, but they always work through a lot of that public ground over there because it's really sectioned out. So.
Okay.
The big flocks of birds that I seen today, they were all on private ground, just adjacent to where it wouldn't be a far cry to get them to cross the road if you had to. So, but it is muddier than hell over there.
Right.
Yes. It's like they haven't even done anything with those roads since I was a kid, man.
This year's been pretty muddy anyway.
It has, and this
definitely
rain.
been a muddy year.
We've been waiting for the rain, and here it is.
How's the fishing doing?
It's good. It's good. We've been waiting. It's been good all year. I mean, we haven't had a low period at all. So it's been nice. We've been extremely busy and staying busy.
Good.
Kind of ready for a break. But my break ends up in Florida for tarpon, so.
Well, that's one hell of a break. I'm just going to go ahead and ask it now just because I'm dying to know. So the last time I talked to you, it was, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, or more, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely before they took out the Pucker Street Dam.
Yep.
So how has that affected the river system?
It's made it better. It's what we always waited for, really. I mean, you got to think that process was so long that it seemed like it happened real quick and then it was over with, but it actually had been years and years and years and years in the making, and it was a financial thing, and finally it all came to fruition and they pushed forward and it's out. Didn't have a lot of setbacks. There was a lot of talk, man. I mean, you had people coming from this side and that side, and a lot of negativity was thrown around in a bunch of different directions, but the entire process went, about as smooth as you could go, and great hands on deck. I mean, everybody says, oh, well, this could have happened, or maybe it looks like this. And I say, you know what, look at the Kalamazoo River and what happened there with their removal. We're a far cry from that. You can't even, we did
What happened up there?
So half the river got smoked. I mean, when they had sediment just piled up, half the river got choked, and it was just a nasty experience on all behalfs of that. So our river kept itself clean the entire process. It would muddy up a little bit. We had a lot of sediment moving, but it wasn't anything that we knew was not going to be able to blow itself and flush itself out. We were worried about the brown trout population within that and how it was going to be able to handle, during construction periods and time frame, but they did just fine. Literally, as we got the main stem of the dam down to like a 4-foot level, there was excavator buckets actually actively digging, with kings jumping over the actual excavator buckets heading up to a river that they'd never seen before. So within that first initial year, we had fish going upstream that had never, it was just the coolest thing ever. And the river now has sped up. The temperature stabilized now to about 36 to 37 almost all winter long. It never varied. So it was just a hot water heater for those fish coming up the St. Joe system, and it's clean now. It doesn't really get blown out or dirty like what's happening out right now. If it was, when their dam was in play, if this was happening right now, we'd be done for like 4 or 5 days because it'd blow out. CFS would jump through the roof, it'd get super dirty, and you'd be done. Now with the dam out, there's nothing in stopping that flow, and it's going, it's flushing, it's doing good, it's staying clean. It'll muddy up a little bit, but it's nothing bad at all. So it's a great thing. Great thing.
Well, you take it back to more natural, it should be better for everything that lives in it.
Exactly. So you got to think years and years ago in the process of that Dowagiac River, it was trenched out in a straight line for agricultural purposes, and pretty much taken from its main heart to just a straight line from here to wherever. And so the Pokagon tribe's in the process right now of doing a reroute and bringing that old meander right back into play.
Well, they
again.
did the same thing with the Kankakee down in Indiana too, didn't they?
Yep.
That got called the Kankakee Ditch for a little bit.
Yep. Dodd Park, that was the first meandering project ever on the Dowagiac, was that park right there. So that was just a straight line cut straight through there, and then they pretty much made it back into the main river channel that it is. And so the entire river is coming back to what it should have been, and we should have never even messed with it to begin with. So It's really cool process to see. It's cool to be a part of. And I think if the city of Niles would get on board and figure out what they really truly have, because there's not supposed to be a river like that south of like Allegan.
Right.
And so they're sitting on a gem. They really are. It's beautiful. There's giant browns in there that live there all year round. Hopefully they figure it out.
I've lived around here my whole life, and I got one other buddy that fishes it, and Brent talked to me about it when I first met him. I was like,
Yep.
I've seen the dam once. I've never fished the river.
Yeah, basically anybody that lives on that end of the county, that's where you go.
That's where they went.
Well, I live on over here now, and I've always lived on this side of the county, so.
Yep.
I've always known about it. I drove past it many times, never fished it though.
Yeah.
I just always stuck to the St. Joe because it was in my backyard, basically. And
Yeah, pretty much.
And the St. Joe's a hell of a fishery.
you don't pick up big browns continuously like you do up there, though.
No, because that's not something that they want to be in. When you look at the Joe as a whole, as far as migratory fish and trout go. It's not the greatest thing that there is for trout.
Oh, it's more of a walleye river, isn't it?
Not even.
To me, it's more like it goes through stages throughout the year, right?
Okay.
So the migratory route on the Joe, I think is, I want to say, and I could be completely wrong, I'm going to just throw a number, I think it's 60 river miles that is accessible for migratory trout. That would be like, the cutoff would be Twin Branch and I don't even know if it's Osceola or whatever, Mishawaka, we're going to call it Mishawaka. So from the pier heads to Mishawaka, that's about as far as they go at Twin Branch Dam. So, and you've got, I think there's 5 dams in play between there and Berrien.
Yeah, Berrien, Buchanan, Nile.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then South Bend, Central, and then Twin Branch. So yeah, there's about 5 dams in there. So when you look at that, that's just a giant water heater that happens. You know, those, you've got it to where rains like this, the Joe's going to be screwed up. It's going to get real high. It's going to get muddy. It's probably going to warm up a little bit. And sometimes it warms up too fast, which impedes a good river like the Dowagiac to pole fish.
Lockjaw.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work. So you get fish that
sorry,
come into
I
the
didn't mean to
system.
interrupt. What's a lockjaw?
Usually fish come in when they have a big change in temperature or when they're coming in to spawn. They literally will not even open their jaw. It's usually more found like kings, we refer to it. And they'll come in. The rivers are so warm compared to
Just
the
saying,
lake.
like they won't bite, basically?
Yeah, I don't
Right.
think they can physically open their mouth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a temperature thing. I mean, these fish are temperature oriented, right? So, you know, a steelhead, anything over 60 degrees, he can do it, but he's not comfortable.
He's not liking it.
Yeah, he's not comfortable. So with the spring run, you look at our past springs and it's got real warm real quick. And these fish come in, they spawn in 24 hours, they turn around, they bolt. So this year, we're kind of like back to normal, you know, quote unquote, and knock on wood. But it's cold. It's kind of just doing a slow, kind of steady rise in temperature. We're not moving a lot. We have a lot of fish still piling through. But you look at the Joe and it's almost like a ticking time bomb. You're like, if it gets warm, it's going to get warm quick.
And even then, we noticed, like probably the last 2 years, and I'm not sure what initially caused it. I'm pretty much blaming the dams, but we noticed the current has gone down, even though the water level's coming up. So I know, if the lake's rising, you're going to get a little back pressure from that. But
absolutely,
there's holes that I usually could back troll in, and now I can't. I can just shut my motor off and I'll just sit there. Like the current's that bad. The holes are still there.
Yeah.
It's just so when you're talking about steelhead and that you're trying to find those seam lines are.
Yep. So that was a big thing. I've talked to a few guides that do a bunch of swinging out on the Big River, and they said the same thing. They said, man, there's so much water that they could be anywhere. They're not really holding anywhere. They're just running straight through it because it's easy.
Yeah, so then you got to travel a lot and go through holes
Yeah,
and fly through the river.
Yeah, and with gas prices the way they are, for us, it's not a lot. I mean, it's just you're wasting money at that point, and it's not fun at all. I mean, I'm right now at like $400 and something a week in fuel. So, damn. Yeah, you got to make that up somewhere.
Yeah, especially if you're trolling all day trying to find fish.
And I mean, we're running, float trips. So we do float trips down the Dowagiac, drift boat style stuff. So that kind of saves us there a little bit, but we still have tons of expenses, and we still got to drive there every day, and then pick the trucks up, drive back up, and so forth and so on. So it still adds up. And then when we run our big boat for muskies or whatever, I mean, it's not fun, And then when you think about guys that want to do big swing stuff on the Joe, I mean, you're putting miles down, and those outboards eat fuel.
Right.
There's no way around it. They eat fuel, especially when you're loaded with 3 guys or 2 guys or whatever and fully equipped. I mean, you just burn fuel. So
also, the last time we talked, you were talking about the DNR started tagging fish.
Yep. So they've got a lot of fish tagged right now, and now we're clipping, so we'll be able to actually really have a really good indication of what's wild and what's hatchery. We're seeing a lot of those fish now, a lot. So lucky for us in the Dowagiac, it's been pretty much all wild fish.
Awesome.
And a few clips here and there. but that's fine because once they spawn and do their thing, those smolts are, quote unquote, people are going to freak out about it, but they will be wild in the end. So,
and they're just clipping that back fin, right?
Yep. So the adipose fin gets clipped, and that's all it is. And that dictates pretty much whether it did come from the hatchery or it didn't come from the hatchery. So the steelhead, they have to smolt in our rivers for 2 years. Some of them stay and they just like it and they don't ever leave. We found that quite a bit in the Dowagiac system because it's really perfect for them to live there. So that's how you get your resident rainbow trout population in the end game. So talking with the DNR and sitting there and through these meetings, we figured that with the amount of summer runs that pile up and blast through that can survive that all summer long through the heat and the smolts over the next few years of spawning with the new river and being able to have those cold water tributaries that are here and abundant on that river, that we will start to see an actual rainbow trout population resident start to come about.
So like the steelhead that are coming up and spawning, they're going to like it so much they stay.
Some of them will stay up, and the smolts will stay. So as they start to grow up, because they have to stay in our river system before they start migrating, it's about 2 years that they stay in the river.
Okay.
So you'll get some of those that make their migratory run back and go out into Lake Michigan and fulfill what they are classified as steelhead. And then you'll get some that are just like, screw this. Why would I leave? This is nice. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, they just live their entire lives there and quote unquote, there's your rainbow trout. So look at the PM. The PM's had some, and then a lot of those resident rainbows were pretty much steelhead at one point in time.
When you say PM, you mean Pure Marquette?
Pure Marquette, yep. It's a good river to look at and kind of balance what the Dowagiac system is and that river. It's not far off.
Okay. Now, so I have no experience on the Dowagiac, but I've been up to the Pure Marquette a couple times.
Mm-hmm. So it looks exactly the same.
Really?
Yes.
Think I found a new fishing spot, Bert.
No, it's good water.
It is, and it's really fast now, so you gotta watch out. So our speed increased. We did a 24-foot elevation change roughly. So it's cooking. It's running about 5 to 6 miles an hour at full pour. Yeah.
Wow.
So what'd that do to the level below the dam? How much did that bring it up when they took the dam out?
It didn't.
None?
Mm-mm.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just moving that much faster.
It's just moving. There's no impediment.
So you still got all them holes when you're wading, and it's just moving a lot quicker now. Awesome.
Yeah, so the river's
Don't
rerouting
slip.
itself. The river's rerouting itself. There's new holes, new runs, new seams, new boulders. There's actually big, giant glacial rocks up above that have started to reform and kind of pop out after years and years and years and years of being covered up by sediment and stuff. They found a giant stump up there that they estimated it was probably some odd hundreds of who knows how old, but it was all petrified, giant, bigger than this entire room that we're sitting in.
Wow.
And they started to see it, and they kept hitting it with an excavator, and it would never move. And then the river started to form around it, and it just started reappearing. And I guess they took data off of it, but yeah. So it's really cool. The river's literally coming back to life, and so the banks are kind of restabilizing. You can see it; it's all slow motion, but I mean. It's super cool, man. It really is.
It's so awesome. I mean, there's been other people that talk about, taking dams out across the country and how much good it does. And, you can look into it a little bit, but without seeing it in your backyard, like the Dowagiac, it's hard to know. I mean, how much of an impact we've never seen the Raw River before.
Yep.
Those dams have all been up since before we were even thought of.
Yeah, that dam's been there for a hell of a long time.
Oh, yeah, it's been there. I don't know the exact date because I'm screwed up, even though I've heard it a million times.
But it was sitting there not doing jack shit for a long time
years.
too.
Yeah, for a long time. And then the whole thing was, they had talked multiple times. They're like, do we put X amount of money into, fixing it and putting it back into commission, and pretty much the state was like, no, we're taking that thing out because we're on a no dams thing right now. So luckily it worked out that way because I would hate to see that thing fire back up again.
Is there any species that did not help at all?
You mean like
the
fish
removal.
species?
Yeah.
We used to see a lot of bait fish. Well, I don't. They could be anything. They could have been log perch to sculpins to whatever. You would see a lot of fry swimming in the little back eddies when the dam was in play. Those kind of disappeared. It's going to happen. I mean, you had sediment piling through there, X amount of days a week during the process. I mean, it kind of choked the river out down below. But I think a lot of them moved up and got out of the system.
Because it was a lot of fun going down to the dam, man. You throw in there in those little eddies and stuff. And catch bluegill, suckers.
It was pretty amazing. So,
catfish.
There was a giant, these meetings were filled with people, and they're like, okay, all we're doing is releasing these walleye and smallmouth to go upstream and annihilate our brown trout, etc., whatever. No, we're not. Nothing's going to change. Those fish are going to go up so far from the Joe, fight that current. They're going to give up, not want to do it forever, and turn around and go right back. And you look at the PM's wide open. You can be down in the lower PM and you can catch the steelhead and a northern pike out of the same damn bush. It works itself out. It's Mother Nature, right? I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. They coexist together. It can work itself out. People try to put all these things together and make things way more complicated than it has to be, and literally it will right itself in the end game.
I was always kind of wondering about the dogfish population, because I've noticed
it's growing.
Well, it's growing, but they tend to like more of the back swells, the low current areas, and that. And when you get more of the rocky and the high current areas, it kind of keeps them out. Which tends to be more where the steelhead like to go. Yep. And the trout and that. And that's why I was kind of wondering if they take that dam out, you're kind of making a little bit swifter current, which in turn, hopefully would push that down.
So what I always try to tell everybody is I fished that thing my entire life. I've watched it go through many phases. And even in the summertime, you would fish the living daylights out of that. And you would probably catch 4 smallmouth, maybe a walleye in the heat of the summer. And that was it. And then it was trout. It was all trout, even in the lower river. So, I mean, now that we've done what we've done and the river's where it's at, it's only going to get better. I don't think you're going to see a bunch of that stuff anymore. So I think in 4 years, you're going to have a river that is just absolutely mind-boggling.
So what's the DNR's plan as far as stocking?
So that's a good one, because we've been beating heads against the wall trying to figure out what we want to do. But we've got such a cool, river system that it's still up in the air. They can make a decision tomorrow that contradicts everything that we've talked about. It kind of works that way. But what the plan is we kind of want to maintain that wild fishery, so we don't want to physically stock the Dowagiac. So what we want to do is implement more fish into the St. Joe system, hoping that the Dowagiac pulls those fish in. And then they would be doing that on their own, and we're not physically.
So we're talking steelhead.
Yep.
Browns.
No browns. They stock browns in the Dowagiac, and they always have. But for this main big stock, it would just be kings and pretty much steelhead.
Wonder what it's going to
do.
do.
So wait, let me be clear. Are they not doing browns anymore? Or?
They are still doing browns, but they'll dump those all over up above. They have for years, but. You can go up to Dodd Park after they dump them in there. You can have a freaking heyday.
Catch 5 inches all day long.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, David, go ahead. I thought you were going to say something.
I completely spaced.
Something about the kings.
Oh, yeah. With that dam being taken out, because one thing I've always complained about, in the St. Joe, is that the kings don't have a lot of area to actually spawn. They'll come up in the St. Joe, but the biggest problem that they've had is St. Joe's just so big and so deep.
Yeah.
That's not where they want to spawn, so they have to hit these little streams. Well, if you look at the St. Joe, a lot of these little creeks, and I call them creeks because that's what they are.
Creeks. They're creeks.
Like Farmers in Love type style?
Yeah, even Pipestone. I mean, it's so small. These fish have a hell of a time, and it's not a good area for them to go. So I'm wondering, with stocking more of the kings up there, that seems to be a lot more of a natural habitat from the spawn in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I'd like to see because right now the numbers of kings in the St. Joe River just sucks.
Well, that's not like you were saying. They've got nothing there. It's not. They don't want to be there.
No.
I mean, they don't. I mean, you got, downriver places like Sportsman's, et cetera, that they'll gravel up on late. Not early, but 90. I would say a good 75% of those kings that enter the Joe run straight up to the Dowagiac.
Right.
And I mean, you'll catch them with adipose fins just hanging off of them. And I mean, those are born and raised fish in there. And they always return. I mean, you know, it was interesting. This was our first fall that we were able to see like what was going to happen with the kings. And it was a little shaky there for a little while. It was like, oh boy, they didn't show up. We spent 4 weeks going down there and probably seen 4 fish. And there should have been a ton of them. So we started going upriver, doing some, you know, kayaking and rafting and going over log jams, and we found an absolute pile of them up there. So they had all just merged up and found new water, which is cool. And then all the deer hunters were chiming in, you know, during the cohos and everything, and they're like, we're in our stands and there's coho and 3 inches of water in these little feeder creeks off the Dowagiac. That's when it hit us, and we were like, hey, this is good. Because those smolts, everything's closed down. Those fish are going to spawn. Those fish are perfectly fine up there. So the return, we're looking at the return in 4 years to be stupid. And the more the Dowagiac starts to do its thing, the more the Joe's going to end up getting better when those fish start returning and coming up. You're going to get those pass-throughs. The amount of coho in the Joe is just absurd anyway. It's so stupid.
Fishing for you.
It's so stupid.
It's almost like, dang it, I got another one.
Yeah, it's dumb. You know, you get to that point in like that September, late September, or early September, you hit those any creek mouth, and there's like 1,000 of them sitting there, 200, 500 of them, and it's just like, oh my lord.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got your client standing in the Dowagiac, and it's just like coho, 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 and they're just running past you. You know, it's like. It's like, which one you want, guys? Like,
I mean, they taste good, so I wouldn't complain.
Right.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a bunch of coho. They're not having issues.
Yeah, we always try to tell, you know, we're trying to educate as much as we can when it comes to the Dowagiac system that we got to try to put as many fish back as we absolutely can, because we got to keep growing that river system and taking fish out of it. Like, you know, I seen a guy the other day up in New Water, upriver, and he was way over his bag limit, just dragging him on the ground off of gravel. That was dealt with, but we can't do that to a river system that's brand new. We can't do it. So we've got a lot of enforcement going on right now. We've got a lot of eyes and ears out there, so
good to hear.
Watch it.
I was gonna say, I have noticed. I've had good run-ins with the DNR this year, but I've seen their presence has been all over.
Yes.
Definitely present in the St. Joe. I've seen them many times.
Yep.
Say if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't really have to watch it.
You shouldn't.
But...
I mean, and you got to respect those guys. They go through a lot. I mean, they really do. And now with the Dowagiac system opened up, you know, they've got to now run migratory trout, the full length of it.
Right.
So it just adds more to their plate. And I mean, there's still not a bunch of guys running around there to enforce it either. It's only a handful. So yeah, a lot of it's, you know, us that has to do 90% of that, you know, and they're there to pick up the back end of it.
And that's kind of what I tell everybody that I've fished with or hunted with, and it's like, you know, most DNR officers are not bad guys.
No, they're not.
They've got a tough job. I guarantee you, if they wanted to, they could find some rule that you don't know about that you're breaking.
And think about how many assholes they run into.
Right.
Think about that.
If you're just cooperative and abide by the rules you know about, you're not going to have a bad time.
No, if anything, they're always there to educate you.
Yeah,
if you don't know something, they will gladly tell you.
And everybody says, you know, oh, this guy, you know, this officer was really uptight and he kind of just came in hot. And, you know, I've had conversations with the people that say that, and I always tell them, I said, you know, those guys walk up to somebody knowing that there is either a knife somewhere or they do have a physical gun on them at the time walking in. And, I mean, you would be uptight too when you walk up to somebody, you know what I mean? Like, you know that guy's got either a giant fillet knife or, you know, something that's going to get you if he wants to get you. And, you know, everybody owns a gun now. So, and then, you know, granted, you're walking through the woods during turkey season and you know somebody's got a 12 gauge wrapped on them. So, yeah, give them the respect because, geez, you wouldn't want to walk up to somebody with a 12 gauge and feel
knowing
comfortable with it. Yeah,
he's going to have a weapon on him of some kind.
Well, no, the guy I work with had said he was talking to one of the COs, and he had said that in certain spots up here in North County, he would suggest having a sidearm on him.
Oh, yeah.
Just because there's assholes out there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we live in a different world. We got to remember that. I mean, I had guys floating down the river with clients, and they were kids up on a hillside shooting 22s in the river. This was 2 weeks ago. And the 22 rounds were hitting the water and going and taking off. And you can hear them whistling through the trees. And as much as we yelled, nobody gave a shit. And so I have to stop and physically, like, try to get up the hill and walk around and find these guys, and without getting shot. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they're there for a reason. I don't want to have to tattletale on anybody. When we grew up,
Right?
Nah, man,
we grew up like that. But we live in a time now where, yeah, I'm calling.
You know what? I grew up kind of the same way, but that was on the farm where, you're shooting log piles, trees,
Right.
squirrels. I got taught when I was 5 years old, a 22 bullet will ricochet off of water if you are not point blank.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what I was talking about with you when Mr. Freddie was saying shooting frogs with a 22. Like, I don't know about that. I'll spare them. That's what I was worried about.
I don't know if he was shooting them on the water.
Oh, I was going to say, I was worried about a 22's ricocheting off the water.
I mean, I guess if you're like shooting them on the bank.
On the bank, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing. I don't think he was like, when you can just see their eyes glowing, just launching.
Nighttime
Two
with a spotlight and a 22.
Depends on how many bush lights we drank.
Great idea.
We've all been there.
Right.
Sitting at your house and you could just hear them and you're like, oh, shit, I'm going out there right now and take them all out.
But, yeah, just talking about... Hank, get over here. Sorry. Hank, you're going to mess up that camera. Talking about assholes. So that same guy where I was getting at was, he was talking about the lack of access anymore, especially around here, I guess, on like these smaller creeks and stuff, because, I get in the water and I'll wade, but a lot of guys don't like to do that. They'll try to skirt the bank as much as possible, blah, blah, blah. But, people leaving Nightcrawler
I was going to say, the amount of trash lately has just been, and I get the last couple of years.
We just went on a walk, me and Typhy did across the street. We were rabbit hunting.
Yeah.
And there was like, what? It seemed like every 25 yards there was like a dilapidated old rotten bucket and a pile of old beer cans.
Oh,
Next
man.
nice day we have, we're going out there and we're going
for sure.
pick that shit up.
It's disgusting.
I know half of it's probably from blowing off of the road or whatever, but still not an excuse. Don't throw shit out of your car.
Right.
Throw it away when you get to a gas station.
Think about it if you're a farmer, and you've got a creek running through your property. Somebody pulls off the road, gets off, and they fish it. It probably never used to be a problem until you start finding a shit ton of Nightcrawler cartons and,
Well, a lot of
beer
stuff. We
cans.
just started.
Yeah.
So then you just say nobody's allowed back there.
Yeah, we just started bow fishing last week. We went out for the first time, and a lot of these back swells, like even on the St. Joe, oh my God, the amount of garbage.
How hard
that's
is it
back
you
there.
took it out there with you? How hard is it to take it back out?
Pretty hard.
Apparently,
Apparently.
gains a lot of weight after you.
Right. Now, see,
The beer cans are heavier when they're empty, apparently.
yeah, well, see, when I run my floats and we start running our floats from, Pucker Street down, the amount of rafts and inner tubes that are deflated, stuck into the log jams is absolutely astronomical. Shoes, I could put, if you guys need a new pair of shoes, I could find something for you guys in every single one of those log jams. The amount of floats,
Some 11.5
Styrofoam.
water shoes, maybe.
Now, is some of the stuff maybe somebody lost, like kayaking or canoeing?
yeah, so that's just what it is. But the fact of the matter is if you fall off your inner tube or get pinched in there, take the son of a bitch with you. Why leave it?
Right.
And the beer cans on the banks, and they float down during the summer. They're having the time of their life. They finish one, and whoop, there it goes.
Yep, or they just throw it in the water.
Yeah, and it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. So instead of them picking it up, before my season starts in September, I have to go down 2 boats and literally pick up trash and fill an entire drift boat full of trash.
And
Every year.
You just do that because
Because you
it's the
have
right
to.
thing to do?
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Good.
It doesn't look pretty when your clients fly in from wherever and
No.
floating down, and it's just like, hey, we're gonna fish this trash pile right here. It's gonna look awesome.
You're gonna catch the best fish of your life right
you know,
out of this
so-
trash pile.
And we're still picking up a lot of trash from the flood of 2017 too, right? So
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
that campground at the lower section of the river just absolutely got smoked.
I think I seen someone's front porch in the Dowagiac.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Man.
No.
So-
I was like, is that a raft? Oh no, that was someone's front porch that walked.
So
there.
all those trailers in that trailer park that's down there, they all have big, giant wooden decks that they've just built, concrete blocks, whatever. I mean,
they're not sunk in the ground. They're
No,
sitting on
and
the
they
surface.
cost they're full-blown decks that you would put on your house.
Yeah, it's $3,000 worth of lumber, and it's just floating down the river.
Yep, and it all went and piled up on that old train trestle. And all over the place, there was RVs in there. There was, propane tanks.
You might be sitting
Small
on a gold
TVs.
mine, man. There any good lumber down there still?
There's a ton. There's giant,
Hey Bert, no, you
bigger
got
than this wall.
I think I know how to
Right.
finish your deck, Bert.
Here we go.
Yeah, you definitely can do it. But the hard part's getting that out of there. But it's a mess still, and we've done so much to cut it and clean it and do whatever. But
Board by board, take a screw
it's
gun.
so bad.
Sawzall.
Deck's gonna be a little shorter.
Problem is, as soon as you go and stand in that river and pull a section of it off, you're going with it.
Yep.
So you got to have something there to crane it out of there before you try to even get it out of there.
So here's what I want to ask. So I fished since I moved. I've lived up here for 2 years. I've gone back down south and fished the Brandywine Creek twice. Nothing like it was before I moved, man. On the brown trout, I got one little rainbow. I didn't even catch a brown out of there in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So those rivers go through stages. They always will.
Now I noticed because where I was going for the locals down there, I guess down by 3rd Street.
Yep.
They did all that. They put the bridge in down there
Yep.
and that walkway. Did they do anything to the actual river? Or
Of course they
the
did.
creek?
Right? Of course they did.
Right.
I mean, the construction companies and et cetera, they always say, and some of them do a really good job on making sure that they don't drop anything in the river, damage the river in any sort of way. But in all reality, they do. Shit happens, right?
Right.
That kind of flew under the radar, that whole entire project, right? It really did. There was nobody even knew it was happening until it started. So yeah, that river's gonna take a little bit, but I mean it'll be fine in the end. It'll come back around. A lot of those fish just moved around.
But they are still stocking down there.
Yeah, yeah. The state's still doing major brown trout stuff. I mean, they'll never end probably.
Question 2. So what's the deal with brook trout, man? Anything?
Yeah, we live in a place that it's not really conducive for them.
How so? Not
Reality.
cool enough?
It's just not cold enough. We don't really have it. I mean, maybe, the Dowagiac River, the headwaters used to be some of the best brook trout fishing ever.
Now there's some natives there in a creek in Buchanan, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I've caught them in the Dowagiac, and I've literally, and when I say I've caught them in the Dowagiac, I've caught one in like 20 years.
Hey, Brent, are you trying not to spot burn, or can you not remember
Yeah, he's
the
totally
name?
trying not to spot.
Not trying to spot burn. Yeah.
Okay.
But
I know
See, I
there's a lot of people that'll be really pissed at me for that one.
I can help you.
I already pretty much gave it away anyways.
But you can find it. You can find them. They do still exist down here, but you got to work for it and kind of know where you're going.
If you're wanting to go on a brook trout adventure, you gotta let me know. I'll talk to my Uncle Butch up in the UP.
Yep.
He's up in Iron Mountain.
So I feel like the UP is definitely the place to go for brookies.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Just and colder water.
Cold, so yeah, colder, more free flowing, more just everything that they need. So you come down here and it's just our waters warm up no matter what happens, especially these smaller streams like the Brandywine, etc. When it gets hot outside, those water temperatures go up. Even though it's a free flowing cold little stream, it gets warm. It might touch 60, almost 70 degrees at times.
Yeah, especially like we said before, it's just simply the temperature change, how fast it does sometimes.
Yep, absolutely.
Just kind of takes it out. It could still be 47 degrees in there, which is completely fine. But if it went from 32 to 47 in a 48-hour span, well, now the fish are done for a while.
Right.
That's the big thing with the run, the steelhead. When the spring run, we'll just take the spring run into consideration when we're talking about temperature. Mm-hmm. The Joe fluctuates so much that those fish, that's in the spring, that's what they're oriented on, right? They're keyed in on spawning. But if it's really good temperature when they're in, and all of a sudden you get a couple days of warm. I mean, they will literally find a place real quick, hit it in 24 hours, turn around and burn.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll really seem like you never even had a wave of fish. And guys will start complaining. They're like, hey, you know, this spring sucked. It was so bad. Da, 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 da. It's got nothing to do with the fish. It's all got to do with the weather. The fish were probably there, ready to go, but your weather didn't play the part. The fish did their part, and they went right back. They took off.
So, yeah, can we spiral that into this fall steelhead fishing? How, I'm sorry, in my opinion, it did suck. The weather was not consistent. It was wind blowing. We didn't get a good enough snow. Man, I had a hell of a time this year.
Sounds like you should have been hunting.
No, I did get a deer. But no, it was like there was one point in time it was so windy. One of our tournaments literally was blowing my boat upstream.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, how do you?
You can't.
This year was the only year in my entire career I actually did better on front trolling for steelhead in St. Joe. That's usually not a thing for me. It's sit still or back troll or bottom bounce. I mean, you're just covering ground, but usually it's with the current. Yeah, I can't. Nah. It was all forward troll.
We had a lot of wind. We had a lot of wind events, and the weather was just kind of like it started to get good, and then it got bad. And then it got warm again, and then it got bad. And then it snowed, and then it got... I mean, it was all over the map. So you'd get these little bitty waves of fish that would kind of show up, and then they would just disperse.
Yeah, I want to say, like, for me, it was like right after Christmas. Once we got that snow and it stuck, I mean, I went out there and just hammered them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, and yeah, once you got out of the wind and you got that cold coming in, the water kind of settled down for a day or two. I mean, just, man, it was great.
And then, you know, you look at the Joe, and if you could, you probably can, but you can go back and look at the water temps through the fall into the winter on the Joe, and it was like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and then it just bottomed out. Mm-hmm. And it was like 33 degrees in, what was it, like December something, going into January.
Yeah.
I mean, there was ice flow, the whole 9 yards going in through it, and I was kind of wondering what was going to happen. And then for us, from November all the way through where we're at now, it was a consistent flow of fish. Consistent. And that was huge for us in the, you know, going into with Matt and everybody, you know, in the DNR, just kind of keeping that going. We had steadied our water temperatures out via the dam removal, and the fish that were in the Joe were relating to that in major form because it was a hot water heater. So as the Joe was fluctuating coming in, they were finding stability. So they were coming in, and they just kept piling in, and the fish were hot, and they never felt that kind of lag from being cold. Now, I will tell you, we fished a day that it was 8 degrees, and the water was steaming, and it was warm, and we had one nice buck jump, and as soon as he hit that cold-ass air, he never jumped again. But and it was kind of like, you know, he didn't really know what was happening, right? So we all got a kick out of it. We were like, okay, hey, these fish really have no idea what's going on the outside world because of our water temperatures kind of stabled out. And when the dam was in play, that would never happen. The water temperatures were super, you know, they would get cold. They would get cold because that top water above the dam would really get cold, and then it would just flush down. And those fish would be just super sluggish, and you wouldn't get the pulls of fish like what we did this year. So there's a giant dynamic in play. I think that Joe needs a little bit of, you know, looking forward in the future, I feel like the DNR and everybody involved needs to put a little bit more focus in on the Joe and try to change something somewhere.
Well, I think that I wish they would put a little bit more restrictions on the dams and how much they should let flow versus actually spin hydro, because I noticed it was like after we had that flood in 2017, you know, and it was pretty much like holding back, and then it started all the way up. You know, the first dam's like, you know what, piss on you guys. Our water, you know, it's getting too much for us, so they just full bore opened their dam up, and it all just trickled down because you went from we didn't get that much rain to the whole South Bend wastewater's underwater in like a day, and it's like, well, we didn't get all that water. Where'd it come from? Well, the other dams said they were, you know, and then the same thing, the trailer park down there in Bering Springs. You were close, but it wasn't that bad.
Right.
Next thing you know, you got trailers floating down the river.
Yeah.
Well, hell, down in Niles, they had people with, like, you could fish off your second story balcony.
And there was fish there.
Yeah.
because we were catching them.
Like, they were like shoveling steelhead out of the skate park.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
We were down there literally shoveling steelhead out of the skate park.
Why? Yeah, because I remember down in Jasper Dairy, out in the cornfields.
Yep.
You had steelhead out there in the cornfields, stuck in these pockets. Once it receded, and it was like,
God, that was
hell, I wish I would've known
how
that.
water got, man.
I put them back.
As it was receding, we were floating just to look, and the golf course that's just right there at the lower end of the Dowagiac, we had actually cut through.
Talking about
on
Plim?
Yeah. We cut over and we were catching them off the greens.
Holy
Because they were just, when they were coming out of the main river channel and soaking over, getting out of everything. And, I mean, they were stacked in there. It was like the beginning of the spring run.
Yeah, it's like they like that high current, but they don't, so they sit like right on the edge. So wherever that edge is, whether it be in a cornfield or in the ninth hole.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch all that, and it was pretty cool.
That was crazy, though.
It was
That was
nuts.
an insane amount of water.
It was nuts.
I missed all the
say
steelhead fishing on the golf course. I think we need to flood that again. I kind of want to do that.
It was super cool. I'm not gonna lie, but
David,
that whole flood wouldn't have happened if we had less dams on the St. Joe and we didn't have a dam on the Dowagiac.
Yeah, because it all started from the high up dam opening up abruptly.
It's just barriers.
I mean, that's what it was. It's like abrupt opening all the way down. So you had this like surge that came down and just devastated the lowest part, which happens to be the Barron Springs down. I mean, everyone got a little bit hit, but
Niles got hit hard.
Niles got hit. Buchanan, they thought that dam was going to go.
Yeah, they thought it was going to bust away.
Kind of wish it would, right?
Yeah.
Let's take one right out of this equation, and the river would. That's the sad part. Okay, we take one dam out of the equation, and it'd actually do a little bit better.
You think that one creek out there is good now? Wait till you take that dam out, see what happens.
Oh boy.
Well, and that same thing with like the Buchanan Dam, where the Buchanan Dam is down. I don't know if you ever fished that stretch of river. Oh my God, it's terrible. Like there's some spots in there. It's like a lake. You can go out there and bobber fish.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no current.
Technically, yeah, I always call it reservoir. I mean, it's classified
above
as Lake Chapin.
Niles is like that too.
But the problem that I'm noticing is because of that, it sits. So what it ends up doing in the summertime,
it's hot.
It makes a hot bath for the lower part for the St. Joe. So when I go out there in the summer, depending on whatever I'm chasing, I mean, my water temps are way hotter than what you would think, which on the flip side, anything that comes in from the lake now goes from 50 foot down or whatever down there, and they find whatever water temp they want out in the lake. If they come up into that St. Joe, there's such a difference. It's not even funny.
Get what you get up there.
Yeah, we guide Chapin a lot. That's where we were at in the summertime. We run tons of carp on the fly. I mean, we book out our entire summer for that almost. So
For what?
Carp.
Carp fishing?
Mm-hmm. It's giant in the fly fishing industry. It's huge.
So I fight like it out.
Really?
I have not done it, but I've been.
I have
it's
never
amazing.
done this, and I'm intrigued by this.
So if you've ever red fished or anything like that, we literally get up on flats, poling skiffs on big flats in the St. Joe system or some of the lakes around here, and they'll be tailing, getting crayfish or whatever out. And if you can present that fly right to them within that, we call it a paper plate zone on the top of their head, they'll rush forward, eat it, and spin off. And I mean, when you hook a steelhead or anything like that, and he'll kind of get that second where he's moving his head side to side and then take off. When you stick a carp, he's instantly gone, and he's not going to stop until you're literally playing tug of war. And people love that. It's so
exhilarating.
Yeah.
They're like a runaway.
We used to guide smallmouth, and that shit got old, man. I mean, it's cool.
I love catching smallmouth.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it.
So the thing of it is,
they taste better than carp do.
Suckers.
From a guide standpoint, you look at it, and we used to put two guys in the boat, do a float down the St. Joe, casting poppers, pop, 12-inch, 14, 12, 16, maybe 20 if you're lucky, but most of them are that damn big. Every piece of wood you hit's got a smallmouth on it. Shit gets old real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. So, I like big fish. I'm a steelhead bum. I love tarpon, and I love shit that pulls. And when I I was out in Montana when I first got introduced to carp on the fly, and then I was like,
In Montana is where you learn how to catch carp on
Montana
the
is
fly.
where I learned how to catch carp on the fly.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm gonna have to get your number after this. We're definitely gonna go out because that sounds so fun.
And once I found that out, and then being in the industry for so long, I watched it kind of become a thing, and I was like, now's my shot, right? So I started marketing it and putting it out there, and it just got flooded in the last like 4 years, and it's pretty much all we do right now. So a lot of saltwater guys from the south come up, and that's what they do.
So carp spook real easy.
They're super finicky. It's very, very hard.
Like all
Very
dry
hard.
flies, I'm guessing?
No. Nope. They will not come up and sip unless you actually have like a cotton hatch or something like that.
Huh.
And at that point, if you're not really good at laying a dry fly down, they will not. I mean, you'll spook them instantly. They won't have anything to do with it. And even when we get a really good shot on them and it comes down, some of them will spook and blow out anyway. You'll have some that get super spooked over the line coming in. We have to position the boat with the sun and adjacent to the carp because we can get probably about 60 feet to 70 feet away from it. And if that fly line casts one shadow over the top of them, they bolt and they're gone. And they'll take every fish on the flat with them. And then you got to wait them out because they all got to come back in and then they're spooky. So it's a very technical game. But, you know, water temperatures towards the end of our carp season get to about that 65 range. And the big females will come up on the flat. And, you know, we had the opportunity to sight fish and catch 2 fish over 45 pounds out of the Lake Chapin.
Holy
Damn.
Giant
I caught a 35 on rod and reel, not fly.
Yep.
And that thing took off. It was 8-pound line, so it took me actually like 35, 40 minutes to get it in.
Yeah, so with our carp, we fish a lot of 9-weights, 10-weight tarpon style stuff. I mean, because you're pulling on these fish. They just want to go for the wood.
Dude,
If
they're
by
fucking
wood,
tanks.
yeah. They're beasts. Like, why would you want to catch a 12-inch smallmouth? It makes 0 sense in my mind.
Now, you want to
'Cause they
catch the
taste
fun
delicious.
smallmouth. 6-pounders up in Canada. Man,
That's a whole different ball game. We're talking about Niles, Michigan, man.
Up in Canada.
Okay, go down to the pier heads and catch them off that.
Right. That's a whole yeah. So I mean, I get it. I've caught a bunch of smallmouth that I would love to do it all day long, but we just don't have it here. You know what I mean?
Right.
We just don't.
So I want to ask this real quick, just because I know that you doing what you do probably have heard. Hickory Creek brown trout stocking. I heard a rumor of somebody like personally paying money to do that,
It's possible.
but you haven't heard it.
I haven't heard anything. I try to stay away from all that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do enough to keep it
Well,
on.
you're more South County anyway. I know.
Yeah, but I'm kind of all over the place. So, like, my territory is everywhere, really, technically, if I wanted to. But
Right.
I kind of stay within that Southwest Michigan corridor. I mean, if I got to run for muskies, I'm in the car and I'm driving. And, you know, that just dictates kind of what I want to do when I want to do it to make that call. So steelhead are the same way. If this river were to shut off on me tomorrow, I'm jumping, loading the boats up, and we're gone. And we're going to go to the next best thing that we can fish that day. So, you know, I try to stay within the loop on everything, but I try not to involve ourselves way too much because it's just, it's not worth my time and effort. And I get irritated real quick with a lot of shit. So I just back off. It's just easier for me to get in my truck, turn the radio on, and not give a shit until I get there. And then it's go to work and then drive back up.
Right.
I mean, it's just easier that way. You know, with our name growing and everybody kind of has the idea, it takes me literally, I have to block 40 minutes of my day out every single morning because my truck hits Bugger Street and any person that's in that parking lot, boom, right to us. How's the fishing?
Terrible.
Sucks.
Okay, here we go.
Worst I've ever seen.
You know what I mean? It's just like, I get it. They want to conversate. They want to hear something. You know, they want to know. But it gets old, man. Like, I got shit to do.
Right.
I'm working. Now my guys are waiting. They just, you know, came into town or got off a plane or wherever. And the last thing that they want is for me to sit there for 45 minutes and try to tell
Bullshit
you know, that, yeah, there's fish there.
Yeah.
Stop
See,
talking to me and
now,
go try. You know
that
what I
comes
mean?
down to
So-
like
What's that magical lure you got?
Right, yeah, and that's
What's
the
the
thing.
secret?
it's like a public service announcement. If you have a guide launching a boat with customers in the river, don't tie them up. That's a dick move.
Right. Like,
Seriously.
it's not. I mean, granted, we love to conversate with everybody. We really do. But not in the morning when we're trying to start our day.
And there's a difference between, hey, man, how's it going? Any tips on color? Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
Have a good trip.
Yeah, like if you're sitting on the side waiting for your client and someone else is loading their boat, say, hey, what's up? Maybe have a fishing story and then be on your way.
It's just, now with the dam removal, that's all it's been is questions. How is the river now with the dam? You know how many times it resonates in my head in my sleep. Okay? Like,
You just answer it, no one even...
Yeah.
I didn't ask that question.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So when we talked on the phone, I'm like, well, I want to talk about the Pucker Street Dam.
in my head, I'm like,
Here we go. Maybe
then
it's on recording now. Maybe
Right.
just listen to this. and you'll
Right.
be good.
So now I'm just gonna
Right.
I'm gonna send this thing to everybody that asks me and be like, hey, listen. I mean, you're gonna listen to this.
Everything you want to know.
So I've done. This is gonna be my third podcast on this river.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's a thing, man. I mean, it's
Everybody's curious about it, man.
Well, back to turkeys then.
you're right. Right.
Kidding.
Like, but it is. It's a big thing. It was kind of, to me, it was one of the biggest things that happened in Niles. Right.
yeah, huge.
I mean, it
As
really
far as
was.
fishing.
I mean, it was. So everybody was like,
And unfortunately,
floored
you're
by
not
it.
going to know until 4, 5, 8 years down the road till you get a couple cycles of generations of fish coming
Yeah.
through there to know what they're going to do and what's going to happen.
what amazes me is the amount of people that will walk up to me in the morning or drive their car and pull in next to it that look like they hadn't slept in like 6 days and they just came out of somewhere.
That's called meth.
Yeah. And they go,
That's why you carry a fire.
how's this river? I'm like, it's
Tastes like shit.
flowing. You know what I mean? It's flowing. It's doing good. Well, that dam, they should have never pulled it out of there.
Really?
And they say that. And I go, how do you know? Well, they shouldn't have done it. They messed up everything. What did they mess up? These people, if you don't have anything to back that up,
Right. If you don't know what
don't
you're
open your mouth.
Yeah, if you
They
Actually-
messed up their bluegill fishing beneath the dam, buddy.
Right.
I say actually that's a study that's been around for a while that they actually prove that dams will hinder trout and steelhead and salmon when it comes to spawning.
Well,
Yeah, they can't get up
They
the
can't get up the
river.
fucking river.
You know what I'm saying? Even if, they talk about like, well, there's a fish ladder. Even with the fish ladder, putting that dam in,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have already changed the spawning and changed the amount of fish that will actually be habitable in that river.
The big thing, I guess, is where I'm going with it is I don't understand why people are coming up and starting shit when there's no shit to be started.
Conversation piece.
Well,
Just throw them in the river.
it's
just-
human nature,
it's-
man.
It seems like this is a
Unfortunately.
thing nowadays. You know, if we did this, let's say 10 years ago, we wouldn't have this.
People
Everybody would be on
poke
board.
until they get a reaction nowadays.
But it seems like there's so much negativity that was related to this dam that it was mind-boggling.
Well, it was a money pit, wasn't it?
Mind-boggling. It was. But the amount of negativity from financial part, to there's people that work the river that
Right.
financially didn't want it gone.
Well, and unfortunately,
So-
it's the generation that we live in.
Yeah.
If you would have added a dam there, you would have got the same amount,
The same
of,
amount of
negativity as if
negativity.
you took it
Yeah.
out. So
So-
it's like, well, what was right, what was wrong? You're going to get the same outcome other than, how about let's do what's better for the natural resources around us. Take
That's
the dam.
always what's right.
Right.
So
Always.
I tell everybody this. I sat back and financially took a cut for almost 2 years. I mean, I made money doing other things, but my steelhead season was gone. My king season was gone. And I willingly sat back and took that financial cut, put, my kids and everything to the wayside financially. We took a giant hit. But the only reason that I was okay with that is because I had an idea what the future was going to lie, right? So instead of bitching about it,
You just
being
gave me
pissed
goosebumps,
off
you
about it, I implemented myself and involved myself in the entire process with the DNR, the city, the government, everybody. And nobody else did it. It was just me.
Well, during that flood, with all that, all that debris and stuff, you put how many hours behind a
I
chainsaw?
put $3,500 out of my pocket for a crane. And then I put, I don't know how many hours in on chainsaw work. And I mean, I still chainsaw all the time. probably
And not
should
just because
buy
it's your
stock.
livelihood, but because,
It's got to be done.
yeah.
Yeah, it's other people's lives, not just me and my clients going down there. You know, I've dug so many people out of that river. It's not even funny.
Well, I'll say this, big news. If anybody doesn't know, having a kid, so awesome. Yeah, so like that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
People like you doing stuff like that, so that my kid, when he grows up,
Or
listen to me
she.
saying he,
Or she.
We see where we're going for here.
when they grow up.
when said child grows up, it's going to be able to enjoy the same resources that we do, and it might even be better. It sounds like
The big thing
You know?
is getting those kids involved in that.
huge, right?
Yeah, because
That's why access is such a huge problem. Do you know if the DNR is trying to do anything
we
about
are.
that?
We are. It's going to take time. We still got a long way to go. But we do have grants out there. We've got plans out there. We've got a lot out there to make the river everything that everybody wants it to be, and it is going to happen. We just got to give it time, because I keep telling everybody, like, they want it done tomorrow, but we have migratory fish that run X amount of time out of the year, and by federal law we can't touch anything in the river while those fish are in there. So that leaves a small window for everything on that river system to be done, usually summer. So they just have to plan it out and start moving forward. And, money's got to be there. So
I will say Michigan DNR has done an awesome job at trying to get the youth involved. They do that free weekend now.
Yep.
Don't they have two of those?
They do
each year.
Yep.
They have two. But we have seen a decline in kids outside doing things. COVID was, I hate to say it, it was a really good thing for the outdoors.
That and
Oh, yeah, that boomed like
That
crazy.
it was a really good thing. There was a lot of bad to it, a lot of bad to COVID and the whole pandemic thing, but it really
like shutting down coho fishing. for
it
2020.
but it really boosted getting kids outside. And I had seen more people fishing than I'd ever have in my entire life.
Now, something else to bring up in this area for those of you who have kids is I was talking to the Southwest Michigan Steelheaders this last spring or fall when we were doing some tournaments, and they informed me that they actually do a year-round tournament for kids.
Oh, really?
What
Nice.
you do is it's almost like from my understanding, I'm gonna look into it because I have 3 daughters that are super into fishing.
Yep.
It's kind of like the Master Angler Awards.
Okay.
So you sign up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have to be a member in order to do this tournament. I think you just have to sign up. It's a way to
Yeah, that'd be
kind of
nice.
getting members.
That'd be nice if they
So
did that.
cool.
So you sign up, and then what you do is when you're obviously the child has to be the one to catch the fish.
Right.
So they catch a fish they're super proud of. You take measurements of it, you take pictures, and then you submit it to them. And at the end of the year, they have a banquet, and whoever caught the biggest fish out of that species, you get to come up. You get an award
nice.
for the year.
cool, man.
It's
And
stuff like that.
It's something
Yeah.
to do, and like I said, there's no like one tournament, but it's a huge part. And like I said, I had to do a lot of getting information on like Southwest Michigan Steelheaders this last year, and like I said, they actually do a lot when it comes to their own money stocking the rivers with steelhead and trout.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot for lamprey eel removal, so it's definitely something for the youth. That was huge.
That was another cool thing, bringing up the lamprey when we were doing some dredging. Not really with sediment dredging above the dam. There was massive ball size this table of chestnut lampreys just that were down in there, which is they're actually really they play their part. So the DNR said, we didn't realize that this was a thing in here.
Yeah,
But
they just
now that-
treated for them up here.
But
last
now
year.
that we see them, like, the river system's way good. And I would have been like, hey, kill them all. But apparently it's a good thing.
So you call them chestnut lampreys.
Yeah, so you got different variants of lampreys. Yeah.
So the one that I was familiar with, they always called it a sea lamprey, was the invasive one. Was that anything that was actually here, or was there another invasive lamprey?
outside my pay grade. Lamprey is a lamprey.
I was to say, I've seen
that's
some
what-
big ones.
Right.
Like,
That's
like if you go to the Berrien Springs Dam, I've caught 16,
absolutely.
18 incher.
Yeah,
It's like,
we have all these horror movies out and not one over a lamprey. Have you ever held one and looked at it down?
oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
man.
Evil, man.
Like, why? Why is there not a horror movie with a giant lamprey? You know, some like
Yeah.
some
Not
like
true. You don't gotta-
independent film with 2.3 stars that you just laugh your ass off at.
It's like
so bad.
Tremors hydro version.
Right.
Jesus.
Like if you look at it, if you hold it and look at it, it's just rows of teeth.
In a circle
Oh, they're
form.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You
disgusting.
know what I mean? It sets up perfect for a horror film.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Perfect for a horror.
No one will ever swim in the St. Joe ever again.
Right. All right. Just because I know that you have got to get out of here.
Oh no,
at a
we got
decent time.
we got time.
Okay. Well, that being said, it's time for Stump Typekey. This week, so Ben, and for everybody that is not familiar, so what we've been doing is every episode we play a game called Stump Typekey, where
trying to make me look like an idiot.
we try really hard. So
It's impossible.
me or a guest
No, it's
comes
not.
up with 5 original questions about a certain topic.
10.
No.
Way over.
You got 10? Awesome, even better.
Shit.
It's an even number though, so that's a
I
problem.
test well in small numbers.
So unless you totally tank, we might have to come up with an 11th.
Well, these are good, like, informational ones, like, all around.
Right. So the game is
That might not be great. I haven't
Just-
steelhead fished in a while.
just like it sounds. So if Typekey guesses the majority right, then he is not stumped. If he does not, then Typekey is stumped, and I get to laugh at him and make fun of him. So this week, I told him it's about fishing, which having you two here, obviously it was going to be about steelhead. So I reached out to David and said, would you like to make the questions this week? So, David, why don't you start rolling out some questions?
Let's start with 5 of them. If I get
Let's
those
start-
5 right, we'll
Let's
stop
start with
right there.
with an easy one.
All right.
I'm gonna need a beer for this before we get started.
All right.
So I can have something to not answer the questions.
Pass that down. More than welcome to whiskey, too. We got some ice in the glass for
I
you.
almost was going to ask you, but then I'd be like, man, that's like gold tier Stump Typekey.
How many eggs does a steelhead produce each year?
That's
I
actually
have
the
no-
first question.
It's multiple choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, an adult female
They lay
steelhead
like
can
1,000
lay
eggs.
over how many eggs?
They like thousands. Well,
How
not
many
really
eggs in a season? Or in a year, in a spawning season? Is it
Like
1,000, 5,000, 10,000,
Per
or under 1,000?
per spawn or spring and fall? Like they only spawn
Well, they only
once,
spawn in
right?
the spring, so that would be
I was
that.
going to say, in 1 year.
One female on gravel, how many eggs does she drop?
It's got to be 10.
10,000?
No,
Yeah.
it's over 1,000.
It's over 1,000.
Well, it's right around 1,000. Just barely over 1,000.
All right, got the first one wrong.
First one's wrong.
That one came out of... Let's see where... I don't know where that one came from. I didn't get the source on that one.
It came from David's brain.
It did.
Question 2.
Question 2. Now this one came from... I actually have the sources on this one, so if you want to question it, you can go right ahead.
No, I don't question things until the next day when I'm sober at work and I'm like, wait a minute.
All right, I'll read you part of it, and then I'll ask the question. It says adult rainbow trout and steelhead range in sizes accordingly. So steelhead can reach 45 inches in length, but are usually much smaller. They can weigh up to how many pounds? But their average weight is 8 pounds.
This isn't multiple choice, is it?
I mean, if you want, I can give you the multiple.
Oh, give them the multiple choice.
Yeah, because
Okay, so now when I mean up to, it can be
85,
max.
85 pounds.
Holy cheese.
Wow, that was
Find me one.
no. That's not it. But do you want the multiple choice?
I feel like I definitely looked this up, and 85 was...
If they're multiple choice, I feel like we should definitely.
You feel like a steelhead get 85 pounds?
No, but I saw it online, so that's what I threw out there.
No, it says they can weigh up to 50 pounds.
That's still a huge.
That's a
fucking
huge steelhead.
That's like way.
I've seen was it 18-pound steelhead, and that was massive.
No, the St. Joe Dowagiac system.
Yeah, and this is not specific. This is a steelhead, not
Right,
like the
that's-
St. Joe River.
I started looking on like steelhead, and I feel like I looked at how big they could get. Of course, it could have been on Wikipedia that it popped up on my phone because I was at work, so you know.
So is it wrong? You got it wrong?
Well, yeah, I said 85 and it's 50. Of course, it's wrong.
I mean, you are
I thought we were re-answering with the multiple choice.
even in the Pacific Northwest to see one anywhere.
That's
in
what
the
I thought when I
30-pound
saw
range
it.
Is like insane. I mean, I have done this for well over 20 years. I put my on January. Was it January? It was like first couple weeks of January. I was lucky enough to put my 6th fish, steelhead, in this area over 20 pounds.
I used to fish them quite heavy back in high school, and I only ever hooked one that was over 15.
And that's a rarity to see them get that big.
Oh, yeah, I didn't land it. But it was, I mean, it took off, and it took 200 yards of line.
Yeah.
And just like,
And see, and most of our fish that are in that class are not like 40-inch fish. They're usually like 37 or 38 inches, and they're girthy as all hell. So that's where they make it up.
Fat fish.
I'm gonna have
It's
to,
all about the girth.
I'm going to have to figure out where I saw that number at.
I want to know.
Because I was looking today at work, but
I want to know if
I
they
was
have a
at work,
picture of
so.
it.
I mean, yeah,
Photoshop.
If you show me a picture of anything above 50 pounds, that's going to be awesome.
There was no picture. It was just a number. I'm like, really? All right.
See that on Facebook?
No, somewhere on Google.
Google.
Somewhere on Google.
Almighty Google.
Bathroom at Connie's.
All right, here, we'll do an easy one. True or false?
That just says it's bigger than it looks.
It's the curvature in the mirror. Okay, is this a true or false statement? Unlike a salmon, which dies after spawning, steelhead trout can spawn and then return back to the ocean and migrate back upstream to spawn several times.
I've known that is true.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes, it is true that steelhead are, in fact, let me get the name right so I don't screw this up.
I was just gonna say because I cannot pronounce it.
Adnoramus fish.
Adronomous.
Adronomous. There you go. Adronomous. He's got it. Adronomous fish, and they can go between. I did not know that till I looked that up today. By the way, I mean I knew they went out to the lake, but I didn't actually know that they could go in between the saltwater and freshwater.
We're gonna pick on Hayden Samick from Meat Eater. It's Adronomous, not Adronomous, not Andromenous.
Andronomous. I have the audio here.
Anadromous.
There you go.
That's why I get those words mixed up. I listen to too much Meat Eater shit. It's a problem. I'm working on it.
Okay, we'll give you one more then. How many are we at? 4? That was 4.
We are at 3. Tyfke's got one right.
This is the first time I haven't started out strong.
Ooh. This is another. You want another true and a false?
Yes. I like 50-50.
All right. Rainbow trout are not at risk of extinction. In some parts, they are considered a pest species.
True.
Oh, you're good on that one.
Absolutely true.
I didn't know. I don't go traveling around the world looking for them. I thought that was pretty good.
2 and 2 tie ball game.
All right.
Wait, where the hell are they a pest?
That's what I don't know. Like to me, I was like,
they're not native. They have
Some places
bounties
out
on
west.
them.
Smallmouth in certain places are also.
Browns too.
Really?
Yep, browns. Even the pike minnow. It's native most places, but there's rivers it's not.
Yeah, but it's like playing the lottery for them guys. You can make some big bank off of those.
Oh yeah. A couple years ago, one dude made $75,000 off of just turning in pike minnows.
Yeah. Big
It was out
money.
in Idaho. Yeah.
going after some pike men.
It's a new Discovery Channel series.
The wrong line of work.
All right, question 5.
Question 5. A group of rainbow trout is called what?
A. Give him the multiple choice. He's gonna need it.
Okay. A school is A. B is a group. C is a... I don't know.
The fuck you mean you don't know? You don't got a C?
We'll go with a Hoover, or D is just... I don't know. We'll go with A, B, and C.
A fucking Hoover.
Dude, I didn't write it down.
I mean, I thought all fish balled up in groups were schools, so I'm gonna go with a school.
No, it's actually a Hoover.
Well, shit. That was what?
Learn it from me. I mean, shit, I wouldn't.
It says, fun fact right in there, a group of rainbow trout is called a Hoover. H-O-V-E-R.
It's a fucking Hoover, like a vacuum.
So I was like, hey, it's
Like
right
the
there.
band.
Fun fact. I didn't know it.
That's crazy.
I was like, I actually had to look it up past it. I called bullshit on this article.
I just call them pods.
Dang.
Like, there's a pod of fish coming through.
I should have wrote it down because I knew I was going to trip up on that one. So I'm like, school of fish. I
didn't know there was anything other than a school.
A school, a cluster.
Okay, I guess we're gonna go for best out of 10 then.
Yeah, because that was definitely wrong.
By everyone.
I was
other
gonna
than
say,
Dave.
I gotta
right.
keep coming up.
Hey, let's do.
I thought you had 10 of them.
I have a bunch of information.
Let's
here.
do.
Just give me a minute.
Let's do 7. So we got 2 more. That's an odd number. So pick your best next 2 questions. What?
Oh,
I've only got 1 right. I'm still gonna.
You got 2 right.
Oh, I did.
I'll give you another. The best one?
I think. I got 2 on here. But we all know I'm a little spacey from time to time. I might have missed one. And you got
You
it wrong. And I
pronounced
put it
special
right.
wrong.
Facts.
Sorry, Bert.
Don't worry, this isn't awkward at all, David.
Oh, I thought you guys were going to keep talking while I'm looking at this, but that's fine.
We were trying.
You know.
I mean,
okay. We can go with... I found one, and I was going to use it. I should have used the Adronomous one earlier. That would have been great.
It's anadromous.
Do we have to hit the auto?
Is it anadromous or adronomous? Am I doing it backwards again?
The phone lady said it already.
That's what I said. Do I got to get her back on here?
Man.
Here, I got one for you.
There we go.
Are steelhead in the Great Lakes considered steelhead?
That depends who you ask. If you ask a biologist, yes. Do you ask a fisherman from here? Yeah. From the West Coast? No.
So technically, yes, they are genetically.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a huge debate.
That's the difference between a trout and a steelhead.
Huge debate. You would not think it, but yeah, the out west guys will not show up here.
So yeah, let's go over this because it's not
So
just
is
a
that-
rainbow that's in the lake.
Is that
and that's
one
why
for me?
It's technically a win. Yeah, if you're gonna answer my question, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Tied up. So we got one more question to go, but I want to know about this, or I think we should at least elaborate a little bit about, so people think that a rainbow in the big lake is just automatically considered a steelhead, but there's more to it.
So there's this giant debate between out west and the Great Lakes, right? So steelhead aren't technically quote unquote native to the Great
Right.
Lakes. They're an ocean run, fish. And so you get these guys out west that constantly hate on the guys in the Midwest because they're not real steelhead. They're pretty much, they always say that you guys are just catching giant rainbow trout. The thing of it is our steelhead have been placed here and they're genetically based from out there. They still migrate. They still do everything that steelhead does. They just don't go to the salt. They go to the giant lake.
Do you know what year steelhead were introduced into the Great Lakes?
Do I know what?
What year?
What year? It was 1886. Was it close? When is it?
It's 1890s. They don't
Okay.
have an exact date.
Yeah. So it was a long ass time ago. That's where we're going with it. And
I'm kind of wondering how in the hell they got it here.
what got him
Me
here?
too. That's
So
It had to be rail car.
yeah. So it was
Yeah.
all train driven.
yeah.
It was all train driven. I'll give you a really fun fact. The Dowagiac River system was the first river in this state of Michigan to ever get stocked with brown trout.
Really.
Yeah. So the Pure Marquette River is classified as the first river to ever get a brown trout stocking. But the fact of the matter is that old train trestle that runs below, That was the Pere Marquette Railroad, and they stopped there for a maintenance purpose with the brown trout, and the guy just dumped a bucket of them over, and it was journalized.
Really?
But we never get any type of recognition for it, but the Pere Marquette gets it all. So the Dowagiac River system is actually, those fish are, I mean, all the genetics that, you know, you catch of a resident trout there is of one of the first stockings ever in the state of Michigan.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Fun fact.
Fun fact. Right in your back door.
Is that what you tell ladies at Connie's?
But going back to it, steelhead in the Midwest are steelhead. There's no doubt in my mind. You'll
Yeah,
never,
if they go out of the river,
you'll
back
never.
to the lake,
If they migrate, they are what they are.
I'll fight you on that one.
So
No, I'm saying if you say they're not steelhead, because that's like my favorite thing in the world. Like,
well,
Yeah, over the years, I've had out west guys finally make that cut, right? And I've had phone calls with them at night, sitting down, drinking beer, ready to fight, just waiting for it. And they're like, I want to, you know, I'm an out west guy. I really want to see what this is about. And I'm like, if you even start shit with me in the boat, like, you might join them on their migrational route back out. You know, but the fact of the matter is those guys that are willing to make that leap out of their, what I call just piss party, they stand in the river, they'll hook, you know, X amount of fish during that right time, and they will literally look at you and say, wow, okay, I got it. Like, they are what they are.
how many different varieties of rainbow trout are there?
Oh man, there's not too many. Rainbows are rainbows.
yeah,
Well, what I mean is, you have steelhead that everybody relates
they're
to.
a migratory rainbow trout, so they have They don't have spots below their lateral line. They grow big. They
But
migrate.
like, you got cutthroats out west that
Yeah.
are basically a rainbow trout with a little red marking.
Cutthroats are cutthroats.
Yeah, I thought that was a separate subspecies.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, cutthroats are cutthroats.
They look really similar to a rainbow.
Yeah, and they're super fragile. I mean, trout in general are super fragile.
What's
All right, so we'll take that out. So we got steelhead and rainbows. Everybody just kind of lumps together or thinks of as the
or
same
what about
thing.
the summer run scams?
Yes, I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah, so our Scamania, those crazy crackheads.
I love when they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going steelhead fishing in July."
Yeah. So what I try to tell everybody, and I'm gonna make it super clear on here, is leave them alone in the summertime when they're in our rivers if you can, unless they're up in a tributary that can support them. Because as soon as you hook them, they're dead.
Yo,
Instantly.
heart attack.
Instantly.
attack.
They hemorrhage, they stress, they're dead.
So what's the history on Scamania? Because if I remember right, wasn't there some interesting history with that?
So they were made. We didn't have a summer fishery for the Great Lakes. That's the reason why they were ever introduced.
Because they're a hybrid, right?
No, they come out of they're
Scamania
Washington. Yeah, they're a Washington strain fish.
Summer run steelhead is
A
in.
lot of people think they're a hybrid. That
Yeah.
Scamania River is
Yeah,
how many
they're-
thousands of miles
yeah, they're
long?
just-
There is a big difference,
strain.
though. You can catch, and I have caught a scam in the middle of, I think it was like December. You know, and you lay one of those up against the steelhead.
Yeah, you know the difference.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean an absolute huge
But
difference.
I've heard they're a blast to catch, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
dude, they'll jump like they're acrobatic.
Dude,
they'll
they
jump
are-
6-8 foot out of the water like nothing.
They're ridiculous. There is a difference in them. So they were brought to us. They were put into the Great Lakes as a summer, something for people to do in the summer, right? They were like another thing to do in the summertime. They never in a million years thought they were going to take off up our rivers and do what they do, but they did, and therefore it was like, holy shit, you know, here we go. So that's pretty much what happened. They were just introduced here for a summer fishery on the Great Lakes. They ended up just taking off into our river systems because that's what they do.
Which the fact that they can even run up the river in July is, I mean, that's a badass fish on itself because it's like 70, 80 degrees.
Yeah, and they can do it fine, but as soon as you put them under stress, they're done.
Oh, yeah.
Done. Because they go ape shit and kill
Now,
themselves.
what's the fish in the big lake that everybody calls it? Is it lake trout that's actually a splake?
No,
Or is it coho?
That's
No, but splake is a
a
splake.
cross.
Yeah.
That's a cross between lake trout and brookies, right?
Now, if I remember right, they just stay in the lakes.
Yeah,
They don't do
And
much
they're not.
other than
You're
that.
not going to find a splake down here.
No?
No way.
So that cross, is that a lake trout and a brook trout?
Yeah,
So that's a splake. Lake
Yes.
trout, brook trout.
lake trout, brook trout.
Okay.
trying to find a picture. I got pictures of scams.
We're going to play Stump Burt.
Not real hard, apparently.
So here's a scam. You'll see the difference in it.
A scam has a very dark blue
See how
top.
Bullet
Built like
bullet
a damn
nose, real
bullet,
long, thin bullet.
Yeah.
They're so much fun, man.
They are. They're a blast. And then you go to...
But yeah, they normally have a pretty dark top.
Then you go
half.
to just our steel.
Oh, yeah. It's like a gunmetal blue,
See the
gunmetal
difference?
gray.
Oh, yeah.
Complete difference. 100% complete difference. So, I mean, you got your hen. You're just your natural hen.
Hold it out farther, why don't you?
Way to call them out.
And then you got your scam.
Yep,
Bullet
longer,
nose out.
cylindrical.
Yeah, I mean, they are what they are.
And they usually have a lot bigger. Well, all the dots are a little bit different, but scams usually, when they start getting those dots, they come in bigger, more defined.
Yeah, you know them when you see them.
Okay.
You can't. They'll chrome back up, towards this time of year and drop back and feed on eggs, and then they're gone.
So the that whole, like, you hook them in the summer and you kill them thing, I called the dude out on that when I was, like, 15, 16, down on the pier.
Yeah.
And he was just down there fishing Skamania for fun. I'm like, why don't you take home?
Was he on the pier?
Yeah.
On the pier is fine.
Well, within
was
reason,
like-
you can't just dump them
you
back
can't
in.
just
You
throw them
gotta
back
revive
in.
them.
Yeah.
Right. No,
But
he
But
was
some of
from-
them, though, I've had, like, very hard fighting ones. You'll know they'll fight, and then all of a sudden it's like,
Dead weight.
yeah, and then you're like reeling it in, and they come in on their side, like they're dead. They had a heart
Yeah,
attack. They're done.
Like they're done. They're toast. So they stress and they hemorrhage out, and it's the end of
He
it.
was pulling them in, and regardless of whatever, he was from Chicago. He was, if I want fish, I'll go buy it in the store. Like, what the farm raised nasty shit?
There's
meat.
there's a bunch of videos if you want to read, if you want to watch about. Yeah, Patagonia put one out called Artificial, about stocking fish into rivers, and then there's a giant film that I can't remember who did it, but it was about all the farm raised salmon and stuff carrying these diseases in the pens, and as the migrating fish would go underneath them, they would get diseased as they ran past, and then it demolished his rivers in the end. And they would go to stores and actually take these fillets and do studies on them, and they actually carried the disease all the way through.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's why there's that big, huge pen race thing going on right now out west. It might not be as big as it was, but they're still combating it a little bit.
Oh, and that. Speaking of scams, all right, fun thing to do in the summer. That's why they brought them in. You go down in June. You go down to the piers, out to the lake, and you can fish for these. Now you can do natural LY to catch them. You can do spoons, or another one is shrimp. Now, do you know why they will eat the hell out of shrimp?
The color?
No, I learned this.
Smell?
When they're
Smells like your ex.
well, reminds them of past times.
Sorry.
Sore subject, guys. No, it's actually
bad.
a lot of scams are going to be, planted fish, and when they actually bring them up, they feed them with shrimp pellets. So when they smell the shrimp, it actually will trigger like feed time.
Yeah, it's all genetic. It's just planted. It's in their head.
Yep. So that's why, once again, fun thing to do with the kids: go down to the pier, throw a shrimp on a bobber. That's literally all you have to do, and just sit and enjoy the sun until one of them things screams off.
It's a
and
little bit of a different rig.
set your drag really, really light.
Yeah. Because the rig I'm thinking of when people were down at the pier fishing with shrimp was a lot more complicated than just throwing out a bobber.
It's a bobber, but it's a bobber with a 2-ounce pyramid
Well,
weight too.
Right. Essentially, what you're end up doing is you're going to run a main line. Your main line's going to have a 2-ounce sinker on it, and you're going to cast that thing out there. And then you're going to clip on your bobber and just send her out on the main line. So you'll watch, they'll just float, and when one grabs it, it allows it to run, because scams will actually, as they're running, that's when they will eat and swallow it. So if you try to set the hook on one right away, at least down by the pier, you're going to pull it right out of their mouth. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to get a nose hook or something like that, and it's easier for them to shake it. But if you let them run, and then you just wait. That's why I say set the drag really loose. Let them just take off running. Give them a second or two. Grab your rig, tighten the drag, reel like hell till you feel that fish, and then it's game on.
Yeah,
Cool.
Don't just swing on it right off the get-go because you'll whiff into nothingness.
Yeah, right out their mouth. That's why I say that's the hardest thing for guys to do. If they go down there and they don't set the drag right, especially, I mean, I've done it like I like doing shrimp on bottom. But you'll do that, and then you'll see the tip of your rod start to go off. It'll do, start taking off on you. Guys get all excited. They run, grab that thing, crank down, whoop, and then it's gone. All they'll do is they'll pick it up in their mouth and they swim off with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you set the drag extremely loose.
Right.
Yeah, cohos are on the pier right now.
Yeah, they are.
Don't tell everybody
Thicker
that.
and shit. It'd be over before it started.
So by the time this drops, they'll probably already be gone. So, yeah. So,
Ready for
make
last
sure.
one?
But yeah, oh shit, that's right. We got one more question to do.
Yeah, we can't leave it 50-50.
No.
You'll get this one, Type.
Yes.
I promise.
You sounded like you had it queued up.
As I freeze in the chicken.
No, it's like calling a timeout right before the play, you know? Gets them all revved up.
Ice them.
Yeah. All right. The largest trout ever caught was estimated to be how many years old?
Give him some multiple choice. Let him have a chance.
Okay, well, I'll read earlier. The average age for a trout is 4 to 6 years.
Okay, well, the average age of a duck is 2 to 3 years. But
Get closer to your microphone.
The average age of a duck is 2 to 3 years, but they have them clocked at like 23. So, average don't mean shit.
Well, these are also wild. Not farm.
That was wild.
Oh, well, my bad. Well, take your bet. You want me to give you multiple choice?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice.
Is it 7 years, 10 years, 11 years, or 16 years?
I'm going to say 16.
It is 11 years.
I'm sure there's a 16-year-old trout somewhere out there.
Bah. Stumped. Fucking
know.
stumped. All right. So,
What species trout was that?
I'm assuming rainbow trout. Because that's what this whole article is about, the difference between rainbows and steelhead. And it specifically says in that article, the difference between a rainbow and a steelhead is the difference of going out into bigger body of water, leaving the streams.
Yeah, I knew that.
Well, about your
I
comment
don't
earlier.
know about records, though.
It was about the comment earlier that, differentiate between the two.
Yeah. The guys out west, though, they're just finicky about that.
Nah, they believe it has to go and be in salt water. It's like, yeah, well, I'll put salt on it before I eat it.
that's their whole argument is because it's saltwater and freshwater.
Yeah, that's
Well,
exactly
I mean,
it.
at that point in time, it'd be like saying the kings around here aren't real kings because they don't go out to the ocean.
Yeah, same concept.
It's they stay out into 75 to 80 to 100 foot of water or more. They go wherever the temps where they want to be, and they stay out there. And then actually, in that same article, they were saying steelhead they can stay up into the river for 2 years from being born till they'll stay 2 years up in the river, and then they will go out and spend 2 to 3 years back out in the lake before they come back in the river.
So we got elk in Michigan that some people shoot in cornfields, but they're still elk just because they're not in a damn mountain. Same shit. That's ridiculous.
People just look for something to argue about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
pain.
our salmon
I think we
aren't
started this
salmon.
And it's a one-upping thing. That's
Said-
what it is.
Our salmon aren't salmon because they're not in the ocean. They're not in
Right.
salt
I
water.
mean, the only thing I would want to see is like, okay, is there a huge difference between ocean to stream steelhead versus Lake Michigan to stream steelhead
No.
in size?
Well, it can't be because we pulled from that, right?
Size is a little bit different. So you do get
Taste.
size. I've fished Pacific Northwest a handful of times, caught a lot of saltwater steelhead, or steelhead. And yes, there is a little bit of a difference size, length, color-wise, but in all, the Great Lakes fish, to me, fight a whole lot harder.
Oh, and that was one of the reasons I chase them every year is because I have not found around this area a fish that will just give you more of a battle than a steelhead. Like, they're not going to die on you. Granted, they're not hogs. They're not going to be like a carp or a king where they just hit a direction and take off running. You can have your differences, but in my opinion,
I was going to point out the carp.
There's actually...
I just said, but steelhead have, in my opinion, the best head shake, the best runs, the best acrobatics that you're going to get. And especially if you get one of these in, something like the Dowagiac River, it's a little bit smaller. I mean, that's a hell of a fight trying to keep them out of log jams and down.
They're the fastest freshwater fish in the world.
Yeah.
They're 24 feet per second on takeoff.
There's a reason we use big rods and the tackle that you do, because this fish literally can be in a full dead run and then change direction on you, and you will think that you broke a line or lost it. No, it just changed directions and is running at the boat trying to create slack to get the hell off your line.
Yeah, steelhead are pretty cool. I mean, they are. I mean, I've caught a ton of tarpon in my life, and I thought that's what I was gonna do, was stand on a skiff and pull people around,
right?
Catch giant fish, and the whole entire time I'm hooked up to tarpon, all I could think about was steelhead back home. But they are at 24 feet per second on a takeoff rate. You never know what they're going to do. You know, eyesight of a turkey, and they smell 2 times better than a German Shepherd, and that's underwater. I mean, they are the epitome of a badass fish.
Eyesight's pretty nappy. Oh, you just mentioned that.
Yeah, and so the cool thing is like, I've caught tons of tarpon. They're awesome. The initial hook set up in the air, giant fish, 100-something pounds, jumping around, hits the water, and then it's just a straight fight like if you were to hook a king, right? Just pulling. Steelhead, it's 24/7 engagement. You never know what they're going to do from the time that you hook them to the time you put them in the net.
Yeah, just because you see them by the edge of your boat does not mean you're going to get them. That's usually when they pop off.
And so there's a whole difference, and you either you like it or you don't, right? So I've never in my life met somebody that's hooked a steelhead and said this sucks.
No.
If somebody wants to hook up with you to catch some steelhead,
you can find us on Facebook at On Point Guide Service, or you can give us. You could always give me a call, 574-302-7474. My phone's always on. You'll probably get a voicemail, just because if I like you, I'll call you back. But or it's text and email. Everything's on Facebook. We post regularly. The cool thing about us and through growing our businesses, we've watched over the years, and being in the industry, I've watched a lot of people pay X amount of money and go on these trips, especially for fly fishing trips, and most of them are catch and release, so you're not taking anything home. And we're the same. So they get this really shitty picture, right? And they smile and they cheese, and then it's like this just crappy picture. We pride ourselves. We actually are, both of us, me and my other guide, are trained photographers. We do editing programs, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, cool. I didn't know
so that. We actually, when you do get your fish, we take the time with you to actually take professional photos, and then we will edit those and give those back to you so you can have something to actually take home and be proud of. That's something that we thought that we could always offer, because we've seen a million times where a guy catches a fish of a lifetime and he's just got this shitty picture and he's just holding it up, and the guy's just like, oh, good, got it, put it back.
Cell phone snap.
So we don't do that. We actually take the time, and we tell you which way we want it, where we want it, what looks good. We put the light and everything. We edit these out. We'll send them in different kind of, files, to where if you want to get them on canvas or you want something, we do that for you. So
awesome.
Yeah, we add that extra length to it, and we teach the entire time. So we don't just put you in a boat, put you in a spot, throw you out there. We're right beside you, standing toe to toe with you, and we're helping through the entire process. We take that next step, that next level. And we can literally, if you've never fly fished before, which I just had a couple guys that never even, this is nothing that they ever thought of. It takes us about an hour, and we have you absolutely fully going, and then we just operate from there. As long as you're willing to listen, we can really build you to that next step and that next level. And we don't double book. We never short strike. So we don't do half days or none of that bullshit. We book our day out to you. If we're catching fish and having fun, you're not paying anymore. We're going to be out there with you, because that's what we like to do. So if the guy's like, hey, I got to be done at 1, you're still paying the same price. We might just start earlier. So the thing of it is, I had a guy the other day. I mean, we were just having a time of our life, and I looked at him, and he goes, "Well, what time are we ending?" I said, "We're not. We're ending when you tell me you're done, or it's fucking dark." And he goes, "Well, is it going to cost me?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm here with you, bud." I said, "We're having a time of our life." So that's how we operate, and we don't try to run it by the book. We try to be that next level kind of operation. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I like to point out that's the huge difference between a guided service and a charter.
right.
There's very if you different places will go and like, oh, I want a charter. You go on a charter, you're just gonna jump on a boat and they're gonna slam you with a bunch of fish, and then send you home, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Nothing bad about charters. It's just a guided service. You get way more one-on-one interaction. You get to learn with them, and it's a hell of an experience. I know the first guide I did, because I was like, I didn't really know the difference between the two. But the first time I did a guide up in the Betsy River for some kings, I was like, well, I'm figuring it's going to be like a charter.
Right.
Oh, man, no, it was me and him. And I'm like, this is it? Seriously? Like this, that's it? And he's like, yeah, it's just me and you.
Yep.
And he fished right along with me on some things. He told me, showed me how they were running them, different techniques to use. And I mean, it was just all around. If you're into learning just not only about the fish, but also different techniques on fishing, guide services, no way to go.
So we're huge on, we don't get me wrong. We have days, especially our winter trips, where we struggle, and we might hook one,
that's fishing,
but we might not get one. You know what I mean? But that's fishing in general. But I've never, in all the years that I've operated, I've never had one of those days where we've zeroed out that guy was pissed off. He's always been like, man, my casting got better, etc., whatever. And that's because we work the entire time. I mean, and we're honest. So if you talk with us on the phone, we will talk you out of it. And, we're not in it for money. I have numerous phone calls that I call people and I tell them, I said, hey, man, listen, it sucks right now. I know you got a date coming up, but listen, I'm not taking your money. Don't show up here. And that's huge for us. Me and Andrew both, Andrew's a good kid. He guides for me during my steelhead. Yep. Guides for me during my steelhead season. And he goes out and guides for Kelly Gallup.
Is he still tying flies?
Yep. He still is. Yeah, I've got him down a little bit. I'm like, hey, you got to ease up on that. You can't be selling that stuff. So
because you tie your own flies too.
Yeah, so we tie and operate we do everything. I have awesome companies that have endorsed me throughout the years, and we stay in top of the field as far as products go, and we've been blessed. I've been blessed for that, and Andrew's, he gets the same kind of whatever I have, he can have too. So. We've been blessed with that, but yeah, we tie everything. I mean, we don't half-ass anything when it comes to our work. So that's my livelihood. It's his now. He decided to make that choice in life, and we sat and talked about it and had numerous meetings about it. And I gave him an opportunity to show him, prove himself. He's still got a way to go, but we've started filling his books this year, and
so this might be a conversation for off camera. But is he back from Montana full time now?
No. So he will be back. He'll be here through my steelhead season, and then he goes back in May to Montana, and he'll work for Kelly Gallup at the slide-in on the Madison, guiding trout, and then he'll come back. And he'll be here for steelhead season. So
yeah, I was hoping to hook up with him when we were in Montana last spring, but he was down by Bozeman, and we were over on the other side of the state. So
Trouty, dude. I mean, he's such a good kid. He is. I remember I sat with him. I said, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" Like, it looks nice because where I'm at, but you don't know where the hell I've been. You know what I mean? Like I've lived the guide life, living on couches in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? And looking at your bank account going, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Like,
am I going to have gas money to go out next week?
And girlfriends leaving like drop of a hat, because you're gone all the time. I've got more exes than exes got exes. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it's all fishing related, but it's the passion that stays there. And Andrew has that passion, and he's got an amazing girlfriend that's stuck with him for many years, and she travels with him too. So, I told him, I said, if that's what you want to do, then I'll back you 100% because it's a hard world to get into, man. And financially, you sink more than you swim. So,
and he knows his shit, dude.
He does. He's really good. I've taught him, I've worked with him for a long time, and I can't say anything bad about him. I can, but I'm not going to, because he's just that great. And he's we fished yesterday. He ran a trip in the morning, and then he goes, "What are you doing in the afternoon?" I said, "Well, I guess we were gonna have a business meeting and kind of just fish." And it was the two of us, as we don't get to fish together that often, and we went down and just absolutely went. I mean, it was pretty stupid. I mean, it was definitely, you could definitely tell that both of us had an idea what to do, and we just absolutely crushed it. I think we ended up with I don't know how many fish we ended up with. I think I lost count, but we just put them down.
Good day.
Yeah. And we were only out there for 3 hours. We just hammered down on them.
3 hours, lost count of your fish.
Yeah. So, I mean,
when they're on, though,
'tis the season, though, right? They're there. Now, granted, if it was January, I would literally say, yeah, we hooked maybe 2, but, that was it. We froze our asses off, because that's usually what happens. But
I don't know. This year, January for me was pretty fire. In the same
January was good. So
December sucked. January was fire, and then
it got better as it got later in the year. I would say, Christmas used to be you could count on Christmas as the start of being good, but it seemed like it didn't hit till January.
I was gonna say this year we did 2 tournaments, and the one actually got canceled right before due to weather. And then the other one that we actually fished, it was so bad. I think there was a total of 13 fish brought in out of 70 guys.
Jeez.
I mean, it was bad. That was the one where it's just windy. It's like you literally weren't going for the fish. You were just going somewhere that your boat didn't get blown around the river.
I've heard of some of the guys that do some big fly fishing guides that below Berrien that do swing trips. They've been canceling due to the wind blow down there. I don't know. I don't guide down there that much because I can't stand the traffic.
That's the other thing. This year, the fair weather fishermen were it was stupid. There was one day I went out there, and I don't think there was a bend in the river that there wasn't 2 to 3 boats. And I'm just like, what in the hell is going on here?
That's not for me. We don't deal with that at all. I mean, the good thing about Dowagiac is mostly private.
Mm-hmm.
So we run an operation that we can have that closure. So you got a little bit of, guys that walk in, they can get X far, but we know that once we get past that point, it's you, me, and the fish. So, and we love it. I mean, that's why we don't fish the Joe that much, if at all, because why? We don't need to. I mean, once we get everything in place and we start running upriver and have that float, I mean, hell, we'll be running 9 miles instead of 5, so.
Well, all right. Believe it or don't, we are creeping in 2 hours. Crazy, right?
Wow. Shit happens fast.
Right. So, once again, Ben Mcdonald from On Point Guide Service. So he already threw out his number out there. So get a hold of him. Get a fishing trip scheduled. Thanks for coming on, dude. We appreciate it.
We do have openings still for the spring.
What about this carp fly fishing? I think that's something we need to get Brent out doing. A little
Books-
GoPro action.
Sounds fun.
Not just Brent.
Takey.
Books are open right now, so just let me know.
I'm definitely interested. He'll be getting a call from me this year because I think that's phenomenal, and I've never done it, so I'm all about something new. So definitely going to book with you this year.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got a couple days coming up that I don't have anything going on, and I kind of took about a week off here coming up just because I just kind of wanted to relax. So, if you guys want to jump in the boat, you 3, we'll get Andrew. We'll find out his date too because he's got a couple days coming up that we don't have anything. We'd be more than willing to float you guys down and do some steelheading if you guys want to in our style. Put fly rods in your hands.
Sounds awesome.
I'll tell work to suck it.
But yeah, for having me out and doing that, I wouldn't mind repaying the favor. So
That'd
Cool.
be awesome.
you guys want to do that, we'll kind of just all get together and try to figure out a day or a time that works for you guys. And well, there is no time. We're in a day. So yeah, we'll put Andrew to work. We'll just tell him to
Man the boat, we're getting fish.
deal with it. So
Cool. Man,
Yeah,
that sounds
not
like a
an
great
issue.
time.
Slam some
David, you also, thank you for coming on again.
Thanks for having me
Always
again.
nice to have you. All right, Tatiana, got to say goodbye to you.
I'm not leaving.
Just
You're not
typing.
saying bye.
Right. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Type, you hit the stop button on that. You know where the record button's at in the back?
Edit the last one.
All right, that is a wrap. So next week we're getting Brandon Sarikin here from Boss Shot Shells to talk shotguns and shotgun shells. Right, Typkey?
Yep. Hopefully we get into all things that go boom.
Right. In the meantime, please head over to our official Facebook page. Give that a like. There's all kinds of photos and stuff on there from previous episodes. I don't think we have any photos from this one, but who knows? I might find some in the meantime.
Yeah, we'll try and get some this Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. So we have a fishing trip planned, so that ought to be fun. As always, all music and artwork is done by the Shane Yoder from PutThemInASong.com and the Root Note Podcast, and all editing is done by me, Brent Ruff. And that's all we got. So until next time, everybody, later. Say bye, Tacty.
Bye-bye.